I talked about how we are too much of Captain Kirk and not enough Mr. Spock. Yeah. Captain Kirk, of course, being the human, for those of you that are enthusiasts of Star Trek, the original. Captain Kirk, the human, tied into his emotions in order to be the captain. And then there's Mr. Spock, who, although he's half human, half Vulcan, he's very in tune with his logic and makes decisions that way in order to assist the captain. And he can't do one without the other. Notice, they're so well together. Captain Kirk needs Spock. Spock needs Captain Kirk. Today, we have too much Captain Kirk and not enough Mr. Spock. There's an oversaturation of emotional reactions to things. Now, I had to sort of develop control over emotions. Keep in mind, being raised by women, men tend to be a little bit oversensitive. If you're raised by women, you know what I'm talking about. So I had to rewire my brain so that I don't have emotional reactions to every single thing that occurs, whether it be something that's going on in headline news. Think about it. What's going on in headline news right now that has your emotions in a bind or people's emotions in a bind? Think about it. What was just reported that got your emotions in a twist? Why did you react emotionally from it? See, most people don't take the pause to think about this, especially ladies, and rightfully so. They're not wired that way to take that pause before reacting to something emotionally. I had to rewire my brain with this. And because I was raised by women, I'm still kind of hardwired to go immediately to emotional reactions, right? There's this little thing in the back of the brain that I have to do that sort of shifts it back into what the natural wiring is for a man. Logic is more, emotion is a little less. Okay, or you could say logic is here, right here, emotion right here. And for a woman, it would be this, right? They're the exact opposite. Again, this is their superpower, which a lot of them will deny, but it is what it is. It's the natural order of things. Emotional reactions. So when I think of things, let's see, 2001, a cause for emotion, wasn't it? When you think of what happened in 2001, 2008, a cause for emotion. Okay. I'm just calling out the year. You think of what took place in those years, and you'll understand what I mean. I really don't have to write it out or speak it. 2001, 2008, 2016. What happened that year? Got everyone's emotions in a bind, didn't it? We could go to 2020. I'm just calling out random years. 2020. What happened in 2020? Got people's emotions in a bind, didn't it? Now, right around 2013 is when I started to evolve a little bit more. I started to invest in the idea of taking a pause. And the reason why I did this is because you have this emotional reaction to something, and then about 2 to 3 years later, you end up finding out information that contradicts the very thing that you had the emotional reaction to. You end up getting more information. So when I call out 2001, by 2003, 2004, there was more information about 2001 that sort of said, yeah, something else is going on. I'll let you figure it out. 2008, big event in 2008. By 2013, 2014, new information revealed. 2016, same thing again. Now, of course, I can pick some other years in between all these. I'm just throwing these at you, okay? 2016 got a lot of people's emotions in a bind, didn't it? You see how people had this emotional reaction and literally couldn't stop thinking about it or talking about it. And the next thing you know, you find out some new information about it and makes you say, well, was getting all emotional about it that necessary? Was getting all emotional about it solve the problem? Did it do anything? What did it do? What did me getting emotional about that solve? Did I solve anything about it? Did I do anything different because of it? Did I take that and put it to good use? Did I go out and be of service to others because of the emotional reaction that I had to that thing in 2016 or that situation? Okay. Now I'm speaking of big events because, of course, that forms sort of a cascade over the nation, over the world. But it could have been something small in those years too. That thing, that discussion, 2020, prime example. Did you get emotional about 2020? Or did you sit back and take a pause, process what's going on? Take a pause. Most people don't do this. They don't think to do this, especially today's men. Men today have more emotional reactions than women. Men today have more emotional reactions than at any point in our history of existence on planet Earth. Huh. So if everybody is having an emotional reaction and not using their logic, what does that create? Imbalance. That's what it creates. It creates an imbalance. There needs to be a balance of the two, especially for a man. Now, for those of you that are like me, that were raised by women, you're always in conflict with this, constantly in conflict with trying to understand what it is to be a man because you were raised by women. It's just a natural form of things, okay? And more men today, especially Black, have been raised by women. So you find yourself having to rediscover the logic, learn to use the logic, force yourself to use the logic. Some of you are in situations right now where you're in a relationship and that feminine thing is still controlling and bearing down on you, where everything and everywhere you think is like a woman. You don't even use your logic at all. You're all emotion. Just look at the way you respond to things. Okay. There's a rewiring that has to take place. And it can be a struggle at times, but it's very much possible and very much needed. There needs to be a balance. I'm not saying emotion is unnecessary. There must be a balance. A man must be able to think critically, logically, solve problems, build, lead. A man must be able to do this. Emotional reactions. The conversations that you have with your woman. Do you get emotional or are you stoic, calm, and think logically and solve the issue, solve the problem? Do you present the information to your woman very clear and very succinctly? Are you patient enough to deal with her emotions because you know and you understand that a woman will react emotionally? And so you maintain your masculine frame, have the conversation. If it becomes too intense, leave. I mean, walk out of the house, not leave the relationship. But yes, emotional reactions and the oversaturation of this here in the modern age. There's more to the story. You understand this when you take a pause. You try to account for everything. That's the difference. You account for everything. That's what the pause allows for you to do, rather than just get emotional just because everybody else does. You get emotional just because everybody else does. No, pause, process. There's more to the story. Get all the information. Understand who you're dealing with and who you're talking to. Understand the landscape of what's going on in the social climate. Understand what's going on in your own personal situation, in your own relationship. Understand who you're dealing with, who you're talking to, what their backstory is. Backstory has a lot to do with how they think or how they react. Understand their patterns, study the patterns, read their body language, pause, process. There's a need for emotion when there's a need for it, but it doesn't need to be there all the time, especially for a man. Pause, process.